We have a kind of a generational shift with new batch of people that are entering the workforce, meaning a different level of generational folks that are entering Gen Z, Gen Y, whatever you want to call it. But also with different type of mindset, post-pandemic era, a massive geopolitical shift all over, major technological changes. We were already seeing a major shift during the pandemic with digital communication, but just look at last 18 months, AI has taken over the world, and it's continue going to take it over. So when you look at all that, that's kind of a perfect setup of leadership style and management style, and how do you motivate workforce and get them engaged. Also the work style has changed. Not everybody are working, coming to the office anymore. So there's a lot of element that forcing leaders to be much more transformational and more of an influencer and inspirational figure than the classic, what it used to be. I'm a leader, I command, and people follow, and therefore it happens. It's much different than that.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today, we're going to talk about reinvention and exactly what that means. Well, when you think about your business, you want to reinvent it in order to create new pathways to growth and success. We are sitting down with the author, Faisal Hoque. Faisal and I talk about reinvent. We talk about leadership. We talk about the importance of leadership at all levels. We look at empathy and how empathy plays a role inside of our culture, inside of our actual performance at work. And there's many other things inside this where we looking at what's in the book Reinvent, which he is the author of, but also just connecting the dots for you so you can apply this in your day-to-day work. My name is Gene Hammett. I'm a leadership coach, executive coach, and we have a leadership development arm, and we do cultural transformations for companies in growth mode. Most of our clients are in the Inc. 5000, so they're smaller companies. You've probably never heard of most of our companies or any of them, but they are growing fast and they are dealing with a certain amount of chaos, and they want to create predictable growth as they continue to scale, add more people, and reach more of their impact. And when we do this, it really is a fascinating place for us to work. Now, you may be curious about what we do, and you don't have to jump in. You don't have to have a call with me, but we actually host virtual conversations once a month. The next one coming up is on tough conversations, which me and my wife are both writing a book on how to have tough conversations. That's actually the name of it. It's not out yet, but we are working toward that. And toward June 26th, we're going to be hosting the next executive virtual conversation where you, if you're interested, can join us for the conversation. And there's some free gifts. I won't tell you exactly what they are today. You'll just have to show up and find out. But you will be joined by guests that have been on the show before, previous clients of ours, and other people just like yourself that are looking for that advantage to grow and are curious about the conversation of tough conversations. Now, if you're looking for a different type of topic, we changes every month. Just go to coreelevation.com/virtual conversations. You can sign up there for the ones that are best fit for you. All that being said, really looking forward to serving you in any way we need to. If you just want to consume content, great. We'd love for you to continue doing that. But if you're looking for support, you're looking for help, we'd like to help you too. Now, here's the interview with Faisal. Faisal, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm excited to have you. We're going to talk about your latest book. I know you're a multi-passionate author and you've done this for years and years. Where do you want to start with your background?
Look, I'm a serial entrepreneur. One or two successes, several failures. From tech industry, but management science and leadership is kind of ingrained in my DNA. And talk a lot about humanity as well. Have worked with a variety of organization, venture funded, companies, non-venture funded company, working with Fortune 500 and extensively working with federal government. So I've kind of walked the globe, as they say.
I want to go into the successes and failures. I have this conversation quite often with my clients. I know that I have a perspective on this too, but I feel like I've learned a lot more from my failures than I have from my successes. Is that just me, or do you feel like you've learned that?
No, no, absolutely. Look, because when you're successful, you almost kind of forget what made it successful, right?
Yeah.
And when you fail at something, it's a reminder of things that you could have done differently if you want to move from that point to the next point, right? So the lessons, can be long lasting, and furthermore, certain failures completely change you as a person, and it can be very transformative. So in my cases, there are a few professional failures that I have encountered, that redefined who I am today, but also personal adversity that we all have, one form or another, also changes you, right? So, but both of them are a driver for, reinventing yourself or reinventing your organization.
Well, that's a very good transition right into the book, Reinvent. Love the
Yeah.
name of the book. Tell us a little bit about what this book's about.
Okay, so my very first book, I wrote it in I don't know, in 1999, right at the heydays of internet, and when we were just getting ready for internet bubble, called E-Enterprise. It was a book on digital enterprises, and my argument was that businesses has to reinvent on the advent of technology, but it's not the technology, is the how you define the business model that will make you successful or a failure. So then I published that. I published that right after I got fired from my own second company, which was venture funded. Anyway, so 25 years later, after writing several books on different other topics, I kind of revisited how the next generation enterprises are being created and what are the drivers for those creation and creating the sustainability in the context of leadership, next generation leadership practices, but not also in the context of next generation technology. So that's where Reinvent came from.
Well, you said it. I love to talk about leadership. What are the next generation leadership practices?
Look, I mean, first is that we have a kind of a generational shift with new batch of people that are entering the workforce, meaning a different level of generational folks that are entering Gen Z, Gen Y, whatever you want to call it, but also with different type of mindset, post-pandemic era. A massive geopolitical shift all over, major technological changes. We were already seeing a major shift during the pandemic with digital communication, but just look at last 18 months, AI has taken over the world, and it's continuing going to take it over. So when you look at all that, that's kind of a perfect setup of leadership style and management style, and how do you motivate workforce and get them engaged, and also the work style has changed. Not everybody are working coming to the office anymore, so there's a lot of element that forcing leaders to be much more transformational and more of an influencer and inspirational figure than the classic what it used to be. I'm a leader, I command and people follow, and therefore it happens. It's much different than that.
Well, I'm glad you're saying it, because I do feel like a lot of people are feeling all of these changes, but they don't think leadership changes that much. And I'm recognizing that it is. I think that the workforces are requiring different things, and frankly, there's a dose of care that was missing from that command and control type of leadership and empathy. It's not everything, but it's certainly getting a lot more practice now. I mean, just take the word psychological safety, wasn't something that you and I probably experienced or talked about 20 years ago.
No, look, I grew up in Pitney Bowes, and I after my first company, I ended up working in GE by bringing in my technology in GE. So I was very familiar by the time I was in GE with Jack Welch style management. The A players and B players only, and the C players must go kind of a mentality, which was very much command control type of a mentality, and very numbers and performance driven. What we didn't realize then, that as economy has shifted more towards innovation and creativity, those set rules and set command and control doesn't necessarily work. People needs to feel that they can fail. People needs to feel they can experiment. People needs to feel that they're not going to pay a price when the experimentation doesn't pay off, right? So when you talk about psychological safety, it's funny you're saying that because I'm a big fan of this notion of psychological safety, which is now being popularized by a number of thinkers, and it's really what it means that you have the ability to fail and you're not going to pay for it, and you're going to allow people to learn from them so that they can they can do better things. And by the way, most great invention, whether that's tiki pad from 3M or penicillin or whatever, all of those are derivative of mistakes, right? So if we are not able to experiment, we cannot come up with something new and different. And this is not, by the way, anything new. I mean, if you study people like Da Vinci's style of creative thinking and innovation, I mean, he would constantly come up with derivative work. Art became sculpture became machine became a enabler of some sort of a tool, right? So that derivative work only comes from experimentation.
Now, Faisal's talking about leadership now, and I just wanted to remind you that you've got to grow as a leader. When you are not growing, you are not evolving. When your communication doesn't get sharper, when you're not listening deeper, when you're not holding people accountable, or you just stay stagnant, eventually your company will work to that level and stay stagnant. And so you'll have where you are. But if your leadership continues to grow and you involve your mindset, your skill set, your confidence, your ability to impact and lead others, it changes everything. So continue that path. And if there's anything we can help you on, make sure you reach out to us, Gene@genehammett.com. Happy to help. Back to Faisal. I want to go back to the book. We came here to really kind of sit around this newest book you have out, Reinvent.
Yeah.
Why did you have to write this book?
Look, because, there's like a three-part of reinvention, if you look at any reinvention. One is the leadership mindset that enables the organizational transformation, which is really about cultural transformation, which allows organization to be a learning organization, and it allows them to be this experimental mindset, right? So that's one. Second is that you need process that allows the organization to follow some sort of a methodical way of ideation to value creation. And third element is that how do you infuse technology and how do you manage technology in the context of business so that you can get the most value out of it, right? So when you combine those three things, then the reinvention happens. And if you look at all the books that are out there, it's always focused on either leadership or either technology or process. So the reality is these days, it's all these trifecta. And I've actually addressed this a number of times in my various books or various times, in my career. But, the timing of it, the combination of that leadership process, which is really another way of saying having the systemic management approach that allows you to move towards some accountability, but with that kind of, caring mindset, but also with technology, right? So those three things are kind of like the trifecta of reinvention.
I would certainly love to unpack all of these things. I'm most interested in the leadership mindset of it. So I want to focus there because we only have a limited amount of time.
Sure.
And the book is really about the mindset to change and learn more. But I think a lot of CEOs fall into patterns. Like, can we talk about kind of the patterns and the things that get in the way of us reinventing ourselves?
Sure. Look, I mean, you've run companies. I've run several companies in the past. When you're running companies or when you look at the leadership, or it's not just companies, I see this in my government customer, as well. You're so busy with the day in, day out operational factor, and you're in the daily chaos, right? And you can't strategically think about what next or where you should be, going, within next 5 years or 10 years or whatever. So what happens is that leaders get too busy in that inertia, and they don't create the roles that are focused on long term, and that are focused on operational chaos, and that are focused on the maintenance or sustainment of whatever that you have. So if you really want to be reinventive, and by the way, there are lots of historical figures. I was actually watching History Channel last night, and they were talking about Hershey and General Foods, because the Kellogg family, his daughter, the founder of Kellogg, instilled the daughter as the chairperson at that time, and we're talking about in 20s, and she was very visionary to look at not what is happening today, but what will happen in 5 years, 10 years time frame, and that's how it became the company that is today, right? So it's not, you always have these outliers of leaders, a male, female background doesn't matter, that does this exceptionally well. But most leaders, most entrepreneurs get, or even business managers, doesn't have to be entrepreneur, doesn't matter what level they are, they're too busy in the daily chaos, and they can't find the tranquility to focus on the long term. And that requires a particular level of discipline, where you have to shut down the noise and decide where do you want to go, and rally people around you so that they can start executing for the long term, not just for the daily chaos.
Well said. There's so many places I want to take this. I'm wondering if there's a exercise or a model inside your book that you could share with us today. We're talking about Reinvent with the author, Faisal. I know I got the last name, Hoque. Faisal, what is a small model or exercise that you could share with us that will help us reinvent ourselves and our mindset specifically?
Look, there's a couple of things that are very difficult for every single one of us. One is that it's in my, not so much in Reinvent, but one of my previous book is called Everything Connects, and I talk a lot about mindfulness and practice of mindfulness as a leader, and how do you go about practicing it so that you can be very mindful of what you are, how you're behaving, how you're talking, how you interacting and connecting to the rest of the world, where a lot of chaos is going inside of you. So being mindful and practicing mindfulness is a critical factor. And there's a particular method that I use, which is, like stopping yourself, taking 5 minutes and catching yourself. And, aside from the typical mindfulness kind of exercise where you do meditation, et cetera, to realign yourself. So that's one. The other thing is that, you really need the practice of empathy, because, when you're in chaos, it's very easy to take that out on other people and not recognizing, whatever is going on in their particular world, right? And it takes a effort, because, we are all self-preserving. Humanity is about self-preserving, right? We're self-sustaining, and we want to self-preserve. So we kind of forget what other people around us may be feeling and doing. So it takes a particular effort to be empathetic, but it's only through empathy you can connect with other people and motivate them, amongst their personal chaos, right? So when you apply the mindfulness with empathy, that's when you can start recognizing, not just your potential, but the people that you're working with. And many of them may not be working for you, because it could be partner, it could be customer, whatever the case may be. But what I just said is easy to say, but it's incredibly difficult to practice day in, day out, when there's so many things that are going on in your life as a leader, in your business, in your family, whatever. You may have aging parents, you may have a sick child, whatever the case may be, right? So a lot of things goes on, and to be able to do that is very difficult.
Faisal's been talking about empathy, and I wanted to tie this into our book. Now, the book is not out yet, but if you're listening to this and you want to get the free download for this, you're just going to go to coreelevation.com/tough conversations, absolutely free. You do have to put an email address in there, but that's just so that we can send you the frameworks. What I'm getting to is the framework that we built on Tough Conversations is built on the empathetic. Being empathetic is such an important piece to the tough conversations. Most people don't know how to use it. They go overboard on it. And so we actually share with you exactly how to have these tough conversations, how to have the courage to engage in them, but also how to hold them effectively. If you want to get that free download and be on the list to be, for this book when it's announced, just go to coreelevation.com/virtual conversations and you can download it absolutely for free right now. Back to Faisal. Faisal, I know that you advise other companies. You mentioned the federal contracts you have and the work you're doing there. You've also had previous companies before this. Are you someone who has a coach or has had a coach that allowed you to have different conversations that challenged you and your thinking and your reinvention, your mindset?
Yeah, so I have had 2 or 3 people that have been consistent for the last 30 years. They are my friend and lawyer and my publicist, those type of roles, but they're really my coach, and I have consistently followed their advice. I've never had a formal coach because I have always believed that you can't have just one mentor. You should have many mentors. So that, I use this word very generously called purposefully omnivorous. It comes from the chef industry or food industry, where if you want to develop a very refined palate, then you have to test a lot of food and eat a lot of food. So that's where that notion of purposefully omnivorous means. So if you want to, increase your knowledge base and you want to learn from many different perspectives and domain and expertise and life experiences, then you should have many people as your mentor. So I have had those mentors who has also been my coach. They have been my board members. They have been my and sometimes even my customers are my advisors, because I learn from them when I'm trying to help them with their problem set and when I'm trying to implement a particular solution. So my advice is, don't go for just one advisor or one coach. Get as many coaches as you want. And by the way, many authors that I read and I follow are also my coach. They're not my direct coach, they're my indirect coach, because I'm learning from whatever they have written, right? So whether that's Marshall Goldsmith or whether that's Simon Sinek or Adam Grant, it doesn't matter. I voraciously read all their stuff.
Well, I can appreciate that, because I agree with the same thing. I have multiple coaches, different domains, different times, different reasons for it. But also, I just, I have coaches and I adopt this, even though I am a coach to others, is because I know that when I'm inside my own world of chaos and thoughts and doubt, that it helps to have a conversation with someone that can see different perspectives and get me to see different perspectives.
Sure.
Faisal, I want to wrap this up today. We've been talking about Reinvent, your next book, or your book that you just published. Really incredible to have you here. But you've also talked about innovation, creating an innovation engine inside of our organizations. What are the first couple of steps that we should be looking at if we want to create an innovation engine for our businesses?
So look, there's a couple of things. Obviously, mindset to enable a culture that allows the people to be experimenting and failing and learning from that. That starts with that mindset and that cultural element of any organization. But the next thing is that you should have an innovation management process that says, okay, how do we capture all the ideas that can be coming from bottom up, but also top down, not just top down, but also bottom up. And that ideation phase, you should go through a selection stage in terms of viability and whether it will realize the value that you're trying to generate. And as a result, you create an innovation portfolio. Just like you may have a financial portfolio, you should have an innovation portfolio, and then you should execute that innovation portfolio in the context of priority, feasibility, and return. So once you have that, that's when you have an engine. That innovation portfolio, it becomes your recurring engine, just like a financial portfolio is supposed to give you the recurring return. As you can imagine, we can unpack this for the next several hours, but that's kind of the basis of an innovation engine.
It's been a pleasure to have you here on the podcast, Faisal. I really appreciate it. And for those of you out there that haven't bought the book, haven't heard of it yet, go check out Reinvent if you're looking to really grow your own self as well as your business.
Just one plug, it's for a good cause. All the proceeds goes to multiple myeloma cancer research. So if you buy the book, you'll obviously benefit, but you'll also be helping others.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Great interview with Faisal, the author of Reinvent. And Faisal Hoque and I talk about what does it really take to lead a company, why empathy is so important. Hopefully you realize now why these things are critical to reinventing yourself and your business. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.